Hi everyone, welcome back to Tidbits. Feels like it's been a little while since we've done just a regular old episode, so I think let's get back into that groove here today. My name is Kristina Koopman, and as always, thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode takes us back to the 11th century. A man named Edward the Confessor sits on the throne of England. But at 60 years old with no clear successor, the English throne was up for grabs. Politics of the time were convoluted at best, and two main players emerged as candidates for the throne. The first was Harold Godwinson, and the other was William the Conqueror, also known as William the Bastard. Kind of a brutal time for nicknames. The story of these two men fighting for the throne was immortalized in cloth and thread, and remains one of the best preserved historical documents from over 9 centuries ago. This week, we're looking at the Bayeux Tapestry. Before we get too far, you know I love a vocabulary term. Today's is tapestry, which has two main definitions. In strictly textile art terms, a tapestry is a fabric consisting of a warp upon which colored threads are woven by hand or on a loom to produce the design. However, it can also be a more general term, referring to any large, decorative, textile wall hanging, which means embroidery pieces often get called tapestries. Just in case your knowledge of 11th century English politics needs a little dusting off like mine did, let's set the scene. The Bayeux Tapestry tells the story of the events of 1064 through 1066, culminating in the Battle of Hastings. According to written records of the time, King Edward the Confessor decided to name William as his successor. Harold, meanwhile, is supposedly fine with this, even going so far as to swear an oath of fealty to William. 1 year later, however, King Edward is mortally ill and on his deathbed. Harold asserts that at this time, Edward actually bequeaths him the throne, not William, and the new successor quickly arranges a coronation ceremony while William is abroad. The news of Harold's coronation is taken to Normandy, whereupon we are told that William is ordering a fleet of ships to be built. The now invaders of William's party reach England, where William was at one time planning to rule. The Battle of Hastings was fought on October 14th, 1066. The English, also called Saxons, those on Harold's side, fought on foot behind a shield wall, while the Normans, William's side, are mostly on horses. Harold appears to have tried to surprise William, but scouts found his army and reported its arrival to William, who marched from Hastings to the battlefield to confront Harold. The battle lasted from about 9 a.m. to dusk, just one day. Harold's death, probably near the end of the battle, led to the retreat and defeat of most of his army. After further marching and a few small skirmishes, William was crowned King of England on Christmas Day, 1066. In common with other embroidered hangings of the early medieval period, this piece is conventionally referred to as a tapestry, although it is not a true tapestry in which the design is woven into the cloth. It's technically an embroidery. It measures a monumental 230 feet long by 20 inches high. It is thought that it was commissioned by Bishop Odo, William's half-brother, and made in England in the 1070s. Its mostly intact state is still a wonder to art conservators today. The piece is one of the only surviving secular artworks of the period. As such, it offers a wealth of details about medieval life in England and France. It reveals the customs, arms and armor, and warcraft, as well as what people ate and how they dressed. As a primary historical source, its value is priceless. The cloth consists of some 70 scenes, many with Latin titles embroidered on linen in hand-dyed wool yarns. Dyes at the time were made of vegetables, herbs, and various plants that can be traced back to this time period in France and England. The embroidery uses two main techniques of stitching: outline or stem stitch for lettering and the outlines of figures, and couching or laid work for filling in figures. 9 separate linen panels were sewn together after each was embroidered, and then the joins were disguised with subsequent embroidery. The design may have been commissioned by Bishop Odo, but the actual stitching was carried out by very talented, anonymous women. Art can often be used by a person or a group to tell a specific side of a story. It can be weaponized to influence thought and ideas. You've heard that history is controlled by those who hold the pen. It's also true of the needle or the paintbrush. The Bayeux Tapestry is no different. It was probably commissioned by the House of Normandy, William's brother-in-law, and essentially depicts a Norman viewpoint, and was designed to justify a foreign duke's conquest of England after losing the throne. The following is a quote from art historian Jesse Bryant Wilder. Quote, "One episode in the tapestry shows Harold's coronation. At the left of the newly crowned king stands Stigand, the Archbishop of Canterbury, to anoint the new king and legitimize the proceedings. But Archbishop Stigand was not legitimate himself. He'd been excommunicated by Pope Nicholas II years earlier, but refused to resign his position. According to Saxon records, Stigand wasn't even at Harold's coronation. Harold knew better than to let an excommunicated bishop crown him when so many rivals wanted his throne. The tapestry, however, tells a different story. Including the excommunicated bishop in the tapestry was a vital piece of propaganda for William and the Normans. It helped him justify his claim and won him papal support before the conquest even began. This recast William's war of aggression into a holy crusade, meaning William won the PR front before the battle even started. Art has a funny way of representing contradictions. This massive piece of fabric can simultaneously be called a perfect historical record and a piece of wartime propaganda. We represent facts with images. Images become symbols, and symbols change over time. However we choose to interpret the images, the physical record of these women's hands, each individual stitch placed one at a time, remains a valuable physical link to real people who lived nearly 9 centuries ago. That has to count for something, right?